It is Matt here from Scoop in Response, and today I wanted to share a bit of an experience that I had recently playing a two-headed giant commander tournament with a good friend of mine. I piloted the deck, which was a really amped up Timna Crom Opus Thief deck, which had a really large emphasis on wheels and everything like that. Now, the tournament in question was at one of the local stores, Above Deck Gaming, and absolutely great store. And I've played a few tournaments there before. I actually managed to lock away a third in their previous tournament, which was a whole lot of fun as well. But with this one, we actually got the W, so it was pretty awesome. We were pretty happy with that result. Managed to not drop a single game throughout the tournament, and yeah, it was a great experience overall. The lists that myself and my two-headed giant partner piloted were, I guess, almost identical in that respect. They shared about 92, 93 cards the same, and it was really going all in on the idea of presenting a combination of a wheel with one of the, I guess, cards that disrupts the way that you would expect in Opus Thief. So your Hull Breachers, your Arms Collectors, all of that kind of thing. So it was a really strong combination. We managed to resolve the combo on turn 2, turn 3 in 2 of the games. And it was, yeah, absolutely fantastic having, I guess, getting up to the appropriate manner and having one person play the Hull Breacher and another person wheeling at that point. It was just something that our opponents just couldn't come back from. Extremely strong strategy overall. I thought I would show you the deck that we played, or that I played rather. My partner was running Breya, so same colors. We couldn't use the same commander for both of our both pods, so we had, both players had to have different commanders. So yeah, effectively that's why I was on the Timna Crom, I guess, combination, and the Breya was my two-headed giant partners. So my list was a little bit more control-y, granted that there was only a few extra cards between the two of us. Mine had a few extra removal spells and counter spells, and his had a Brain Freeze and LED Underworld Breach loop in it as well. It just makes a little bit more sense with Breya having, I guess, access to all of the artifact shenanigans that she could do. Not that it really came up, to tell you the truth. They were very quick games. We didn't really get past maybe turn 5 was the longest game in that respect, because essentially as soon as we resolve the combo, our opponents would either scoop or effectively concede, and yeah, be able to sort of just not do anything, where we could then present a Demonic Consultation and Thoracle combo unimpeded by anything, essentially. It was a really fun experience overall, and for me, I've only been playing Magic for about 18 months, so I don't have things like a complete set of dual lands or time twisters or anything like that. So I actually had to borrow quite a number of cards from a few different sources, actually. So big thanks to all of my friends and the guys at MTGMate that actually lent me most of those, I guess, pricey cards. Yeah, essentially, I thought I would show you what the deck looks like, and then we can sort of talk about the matches that we had and go from there. So, obviously, first up we had our Timna and Crom in the command zone. Really solid non-green commander pair. Crom is a great beater with haste and flying, so really hard to evasion and haste is absolutely awesome. And then, that card draw effect is also really sweet too. Timna is really the only commander that we had on the field in any of our games, mostly because she's a 3-drop that just gets that little bit of card draw. Obviously, in a CEDH pod, you're not looking to cast a whole bunch of big spells unless they're winning you the game. Timna's just great, though, because it enables things like Fierce Guardianship, Deathly Rollick, and Deflecting Swat, which I was running all 3 of those in the list. For our Planeswalkers, we had Narset and Teferi, so pretty standard, Staxy pieces. Effectively, Teferi is the scariest card to go up against in CEDH in a lot of ways, I believe. Just because if you know that that's coming down, it's just essentially a matter of time before that win happens if they resolve it and they can't actually and you can't actually deal with it right then and there. So just the two Planeswalkers for the actual deck here. So for creatures, we had Opposition Agent, we had Thassa's Oracle, we had Hullbreacher, Notion Thief, Drannith Magistrate, Arms Collector, and Snapcaster Mage. So I guess straight away you can see that the predominant use for our creatures is really just about having things that stop them searching or, work with those wheel effects really well. So the Arms Collector, the Notion Thief, and the Hullbreacher all being absolutely gas in that respect. Opposition Agent being really, really good in stopping those searches, everything from a fetch land to, a tutor target, anything like that. Drannith Magistrate to stop their commanders from coming out or stopping anything that's going to come out of the graveyard or anything like that. Snapcaster Mage, just a great thing for recurring a spell that was countered. So I think we managed to Snapcaster a Reanimate that was countered and then bring a Dockside Extortionist or a Hullbreacher, I think, that had been previously countered as well. So yeah, effectively just another reload for almost no cost in that regard. So that's all of the Planeswalkers and creatures that we ran in the deck. So it's quite light. There's a few things that you would see in a typical Opus Thief deck that weren't included, things like Aven Mind Sensor, all of that kind of thing. Because we're going all in on the wheels and Hullbreacher type effects, we really didn't want to have, I guess, any other sort of stacks pieces that were going to detract from that unless it was really, really useful or really cheap. So Drannith Magistrate at 2 mana is more than worth it. But yeah, we wanted to sort of keep it pretty light outside of that. For sorceries, we had Scheming Symmetry. So this card's great with Opposition Agent out in any game of EDH, but with Two-Headed Giant, you choose your partner to actually tutor. So it's a 1 mana 2-person tutor, so absolutely gas in that respect. We had Reanimate, just a great card overall. 1 drop, you get to reload your countered creature. If they bolt your Hullbreacher or counter your Opposition Agent, you just play it again, and it's, absolutely sweet. We had Ponder, that's, I guess, pretty much a staple in that regards. Preordained, nothing really spectacular there. Gataxian Probe. Now, we all know that this card's absolutely great, period, but when you have a team environment and you can see your 2 opponents having maybe 3 and 5 cards each left in hand, you have a really good idea after you've seen those 5 cards exactly what is going to be left in your opponent's hand. So you can really use this to make decisions and get a lot of information out of it in that regard. So awesome card in this format. So we've got Burning Inquiry, which is like a miniature wheel once you've got your Hullbreacher out. Absolutely sweet there. Demonic Tutor. And that's really all of the sorceries aside from our wheels, which we have pretty much everything. So we've got Winds of Change, Time Twister, Wheel of Fortune, Whispering Madness, and Windfall. So all of our sorcery wheels that, absolutely insane. Having access to 10 of these across 2 decks, it's just so good. You never really feel like there is something that you can't do. And the format, in all of the games that we played, I think we found that the most interesting part of these games was that we'd be on turn 1 or turn 2, and it would be a good 3 or 4 minutes of discussion on both sides of the table about what was actually going to happen and what we wanted to do and which land we wanted to play first and how we were going to proceed to basically move past every single step and every single, phase. Really, really solid. And I think that, having having a strategy like this is it just added to that extra level. There were instances where we suspected that one of our opponents would have permission spells, so we would essentially do things to bait out the permission spells, knowing well and truly that we would be able to recast those permission spells the next turn, and when there is defenses down, and once they've depleted resources in stopping us. So yeah, really sweet in that regards. Moving on to our instance, we had all the permission spells that you'd expect: Swan Song, Mana Drain, Flusterstorm. We had Red Elemental Blast, Force of Negation, Mistcast, Mental Misstep, Dovin's Veto, Dispel, Fierce Guardianship, Force of Will, Pact of Negation, Delay, Pyroblast, Arcane Denial. So all of the permission spells that you'd expect to see, all of those counters being, absolutely useful. We are basically saying no more than we're saying yes, unless we're not bothered by something. So it was, really strong in the way of counter spells. So I think 15 or 16 counter spells. We had things like Angel's Grace, Vamp Tutor, Mystical Tutor, Tainted Pact, Deathly Relic, Chain of Vapor, Ad Nauseam, Brainstorm, Swords, Demonic Consultation, Fire Covenant, Imperial Seal, Cyclonic Rift, Silence, and Deflecting Swat. So I guess most of these things would be pretty typical for your CEDH lists. Angel's Grace really steps up in terms of its ability to help you win a game, I guess, over your traditional CEDH lists. Because you're effectively countering a win con in the instance where they're using a Thoracle Consultation line. It's not just stopping them from winning, you're actually winning the game if you have this. And I remember we played one game in particular where Angel's Grace was in the opener. We looked at our opponents, they were definitely playing a Consultation win con, and we kept it and just didn't have any fear the entire game, because we just knew that if they happened to pull their pieces together before we could wheel, we were going to actually be able to stop them right then and there. So yeah, absolutely awesome in this format. Managed to pull this at pre-release, so I was pretty happy about that. Super spicy swords there. I don't know what I'm doing with certain blinged out cards. So in the format, we had a combined life total, so 70 life instead of the typical 40-40. So with 70 life, Ad Nauseam is absolutely gas. It's just insane how deep you can dig. We actually found that most of the time it was pulled out of our hand. I think there was only 2 instances where we drew it over the 3 games, or the 4 games overall, and every time it was the first thing that they would want to remove or take out from the hand, or stop us from having, with a few different effects that were sort of relevant to it. Purely because, with 70 life and you're not worried about combat damage, we are effectively just drawing our whole deck with Ad Nauseam and sculpting our hand exactly the same way. So even more powerful in this format than what's typically expected. Fire Covenant, absolutely insane for the same reason. You do not have to watch your health whatsoever when you've got 70 of it to spare. That's pretty much it in regards to your instants and sorceries. I mean, most of these things would be pretty typical for a list in a CEDH tournament, but I think it was just absolutely solid choices to sort of include those. There's quite a few things that you would see in a typical Opus Thief list that we did exclude in instants and sorceries that aren't anywhere near as all in. So I wonder if most Opus Thief lists actually run 5 or 6 wheels the way this one does. I don't see Whispering Madness in some of them. I don't see Notion Thief in some of those lists anymore. It really depends on which list you're playing, but this being all in around those wheels, we're including every single effect, and Arms Collector is just legitimately the worst version of that effect, but because we're all in on this strategy, it's absolutely awesome to just have another version of the creature to basically deny our opponent's resources. Moving on to artifacts and enchantments, we had all of the usual suspects, so Lotus Petal, Soul Ring, Talisman of Dominance, Dimir Signet, Chrome Mox, Mana Crypt, Mox Diamond, Felwar Stone, Mana Vault, Talisman of Creativity, Sensei's Divining Top, Arcane Signet, and Talisman of Progress. So exactly what you would think. It's ramp, it's ramp, and it's more ramp, and it's also a Sensei's Divining Top. It's just all about having one or two of those pieces so that we can go a turn earlier. We managed to get a turn 1 Signet down in our first match for the day, and that was absolutely critical. We had I managed to draw a Gemstone Caverns so that we could basically play the Signet on turn 2. So untap with 3, go to 4 mana so that we can do the combo on turn 3, and it was just, absolutely awesome. Enchantments, just Standstill and Mystic Remora. The guy I was playing with, Brandon, he suggested Standstill. He designed the decks completely in essence. It was I basically tagged along for the ride. It was definitely his brainstorming, pardon the pun, that really helped build these lists. And Standstill, I kind of thought, oh, this is a bit cute. It's a bit of a weird choice, but the reality is, and it definitely came true and demonstrated the power on the day, was that if you resolve a Standstill, you're essentially just happy to just draw past, and wait. And you just wait and build up those resources. There's not really any kind of deck that you're scared about that is going to get additional resources that you can't fight when you're at 5 mana or 8 mana or whatever it is. So we knew that as soon as we resolve a Standstill, it's a tempo advantage as well, because it's the last thing you're going to be casting on your turn, and that kind of allows you to maximize all of the resources before it comes to a standstill. So absolutely sweet card in the list. And then rounding it out, we had a 30 lands or so. So Confluence, Gemstone Caverns, a Soul Island, Fiery Islet, City of Brass, Exotic Orchid. We've got the Command Tower, Cephalid Coliseum, Clearwater Pathway, River Glide Pathway, Ancient Tomb, Sea of Clouds, and then Shocklands, so Hallowed Fountain, Blood Crypt, Watery Grave, and Steam Vents. And we had Jewels, we had Badlands, Underground Sea, Tundra, Volcanic Island, and then all of the fetches to sort of finish up the list in that respect. So I guess all things considered, the actual list, this is a $10, $15, $20,000 deck, depending on which editions of cards you're running. Not everyone can afford that. I certainly, I have a few pieces that I've been lucky enough to acquire right before they shot up that are CEDH staples. I don't have my own Jewels, I don't have my own Twister, all of that kind of stuff. So, I would say don't get disheartened if you don't have access to all of these cards. You can certainly build a functionally similar or functionally almost identical deck without all of those expensive pieces, because the bulk of the value comes out in the Jewel lands, the Twister, the Mox Diamond. These are things that you can do without. You can just add we found the mana base was just so strong. I honestly was happy to fetch Shocks half the time because I wasn't worried about it at all, so it wouldn't have mattered. The Twister's really the only thing that you're not going to really have a replacement for. It's obviously an insane card. Same with Wheel of Fortune. If you don't have those cards, then it's going to be tricky to find replacements. But that doesn't mean that you have to go as all in, in a non two-headed giant version of Opus Thief or anything like that. You can play like a $1,000, $2,000 version of this, which is still obviously a lot of money, but it is nowhere near as inaccessible as trying to piece together a $15,000 Magic deck if you haven't been playing for 10 years, 20 years, and you got your Jewel lands when they were $50 each or $20 each. So that is the list, and I figured we may as well just chat about the matchups that we had. Oops, there we go. We'll just go back to that one. The matchups overall, we started with round 1 was a Tymna Thrasios, and I apologize to my opponent. I think it was Kenrith, or it may have been Sisay as their partner. So we had your sort of typical Tymna Thrasios Scepter, Consult Scepter type list that was being played by the Tymna Thrasios player, and the Kenrith player, I believe, got just a bit mana screwed and couldn't really contribute that much in the game. So excuse me, it was really tough to say whether it was a Reanimator or just a value or some kind of Pemenzora tap on tap. Overall, they assembled the Thoracle Consult combo faster than us. They just didn't get to actually get it out of their hands in time. So while we recognized that they were basically 1 or 2 mana off of winning at any point in the game, we were able to just, with the likes of Gataxian Probe and, sort of resource denial, we were able to stop them from getting those pieces, went straight into the bin, and as soon as, we're drawing our 7 cards, and then we're replaying a wheel out of the graveyard, and then we're playing another wheel and basically digging and digging and digging. I think we managed to amass about 35 or 40 treasure tokens before we actually got the win. I think we had to do something silly like 4 or 5 wheels before we actually found either a tutor or both pieces, but it all finished up I think around turn 4. But yeah, really awesome, I guess, to see that everyone was on our level. We were a bit concerned that we thought the lists were very strong, but we were a bit worried that we were going to rock up and spike it up a little bit too hard. But thankfully everyone that we played on the day had access to all of the same cards as us. They clearly had thought about their deck choices and built them quite well and everything like that. So yeah, it was a relief to win, but also great to see that we weren't just going to be the jerks in the room that were rocking up with a rocket ship when everyone else is just playing around with much more casual decks. Round 2, we had a Cram Timna and Sisay combination. So the Cram Timna was playing a similar Opus Thiefy type list, a little bit more control focused, not as many wheel type effects. And Sisay was essentially going to be cheating out creatures and legendary permanents to basically get around, I guess, Staxy kind of things and avoiding permission spells and all of that. So they played an absolutely awesome match. I think that we just happened to catch the Sisay player was a bit stuck on mana, and we managed to bounce a Fabro Elder and then bounce the Fabro Elder again, and effectively each time that was their entire resources spent, where when you snap a Fabro Elder before they get to tap with it and effectively time walk in that regards, it's quite strong. So yeah, they essentially kept fighting and sort of doing those battles until we were able to resolve the combo after the being stuck on mana kind of affected the Cram Timna player, the Sisay player quite a bit. The third round we played versus a Stax and I guess Prison type combination. So it was a Grand Arbiter Augustine list and a Galazeth Prismari list. So really cool to see the Galazeth Prismari list sort of getting in and doing well. So they obviously took second away for the day. The coolest part about that list, I think, is that it's kind of a new take on what you can do with an Urza type list with access to extra colors. So, you can be tapping and untapping your Howling Mine or your Trinispheres or your Winter Orbs. I can't even remember if Static Orb is the same, but yeah, effectively, having access to a tapper for artifacts in the command zone. I don't know if I'm sold on whether or not it is better to run Joyra with Galazeth Prismari in the 99, or if it's better to run Galazeth Prismari with Joyra in the 99. I played a lot of Cheerios. It was one of the first lists that I could sort of build without having any proxies, and really enjoyed that type of play. But drawing cards versus getting a lot of mana, it's really tough to say which one's best. I would really love to see I guess an Izzet pod at some point, because I love Kraken Sakashima as well. So it'd be really sweet to see, which is the best version of this deck and which is the best commander for that deck. The Grand Arbiter Augustine player, it was a very control and permissions based I guess deck. They ended up scooping to us, I think, because we sort of demonstrated the combo on turn 3 in that as well, and they scooped to us, not wanting to fight through a 21 card or 28 card lead with the Notion Thief, so which is fair enough. I mean, it's pretty miserable when you're 28 cards down in a two-player team event. So that, I guess, is the situation. We were really happy with the win. I think shout outs to Brandon for actually brewing something that was really solid. You know, I'm going to put a link to the deck in the description of the video. But yeah, he's really done a great job in tuning this for a two-headed giant, I guess, environment. And you know, we took away the goods on the day. So yeah, thanks so much for checking out the video. If you really enjoy my content and you'd like to see more of it, I would love a like and a subscribe. We're getting really close to 200 subscribers, which is really sweet because only a month ago we were just under 100. So the channel's growing super quick at the moment. I'm really excited with how everything's going. And yeah, overall, oh, and the other thing is, if you have a commander, new or old, that you're wanting to see, at the moment I'm actually taking, I guess, anyone who's leaving a comment in the description on the video. You know, I'll add it to the list of commanders that I will start brewing on and potentially look at putting out videos for in the near future. So thanks again for watching the video, and I shall see you guys next time. Bye for now.